invincible.
Hello everybody, it is Chief Flamehead here, and welcome to another Minecraft video. Now in this video it's going to be a little bit different because I did just start working on my Minecraft animations. So what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you guys the walking process that I actually do for my person. So I guess you could call it a tutorial or like a showcase, or so it's a little different. So the first thing you want to do is just create a new project, and we're just going to name this, why don't we go with walking. Author will be Chief, that's not how you spell it, Chief Flamehead with a non-capital E. And then just give it a description like he walks. Alright, great description. Then you want to hit create, and you have a blank little world here. So this is optional for you guys. I'm just going to show you guys how to do it though. You can click on this little crafting table up here, click on the scenery, and where it says none, you're going to want to click there, and you're going to want to go to import from world. Now it's very important that you do this with a 1.12 world because Mine-imator does not work with 1.13. So you're going to pick whether you want overworld, nether, or end generator, and then you pick the world that you want. So for mine, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find one, my old world, okay? So you click on here, and whatever is loaded in on that world will actually load in on here. So I'm just going to want to get like a little flat piece of terrain or something. So I'm going to highlight just this spot right here. Now you can see over here, you can see that I can go up or downward. So I'm going to want to go up, and I'm going to want to go down to the bottom of the water there, and then we hit done. And then it will process it, and it'll create the 3D model, and then you can just hit create, and it will actually spawn the whole model in, as you can see right there. So now we want to get our person to walk. So you're going to click on here. You want to click on your Minecraft skin, or I guess the person, and then you're going to want to go to where it says skin, and then you're going to hit browse. Now I have a specific skin that I have picked out. It is under desktop, and it is under skins. So you can download these skins off of Nova Skin Editor. I'll have a link in the description to get to Nova Skin Editor. So then you're going to want to pick the skin you want, and I'm going to want Warrior 2. Now I'm going to be using this in one of my animations, but I figured I could do it for here. So then you want to hit create, and then over here you're going to want to hit you're going to want to click Steve where it says timeline, and then you can pull him all the way up using the blue arrow on the top and slide him over closer to me using the yellow one. So we want him to walk from point A to point B. So we're going to swing him over here, and I want him to rotate 90, probably 180 degrees. Negative 180, I believe. Yeah, yep, okay. So he's going to start out right, and you're going to want to get him perfectly lined up on the ground, so that way he's not hovering, and that way he's not on the inside. When I'm doing it, I usually put him a little bit above the ground. So there we go. That's probably about just a teeny itsy bitsy little bit off the ground. So now to make him actually walk, what we're going to want to do is sometimes it doesn't show up with all of like the arms, so you just want to click on the arm, and then it shows all the different things that you can do with it now. So we're going to want to make him actually walk. So from this point to point, let's see, because we're going to go 15, I believe. So from that point to this point right here, we're going to put markers down just by simply selecting whatever item, I guess you could say, like the right leg, I have that selected, then I just click again and it sets a keyframe, and then I'll do the same for the left leg. So in between 15 and 30, we want him to move his feet half or all the way. So from there to there, we're going to just set some markers here. We might end up changing where these are. So we're going to go with the left arm first, I think. Alright, so with the left arm, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the X to -50. Now this is the way that I do it. If you guys prefer it a different way, that's fine. And then put the bend to 25. And then the right arm, if we go there, then the right arm gets set to just 50. Let me grab you, thank you. 50, and then the bend of this is also a 25. And then your left leg, which is what we're going to go to next, your left leg is going to be set to 10. 10. And the bend is going to be 30, so it's a little bit of an increase on bend. And then your right leg is going to be set to -30. -30. And then the bend is going to be set to 30. So that's our first little position. That's the first movement that he has. But you can see that's pretty slow movement. So what you might want to do is you might want to put your first frames at 10, and then you're going to want to move these to maybe right about there. So the first little, he goes into it pretty quickly, so it's 5 frames for him to go into it. So now in between here and here, we're going to want to reverse whatever is done with the arms. So if we go to the right arm, we're going to change this to -50. So now this should be -50. This over here should be 50. Okay, so the back leg, the leg that swings backward, you're always going to want to have that one on 10. So for instance, this is the right leg that swings backward like this. So you're actually going to want to just keep that on 10 if that's what you're doing for the leg. And then you want to keep the other leg at the normal one. So right here, then this one would be a -30. Hope that all made sense for you. And that would be the first little walking process done, but that's a little too quick of walking for me, so I'm going to move these from 15. We'll see how long it takes, because this is a very slow walk, so he goes into position. So you saw that very, very quick little brief movement. Everything was pretty smooth, but we're going to want him to continue to walk. So if you just highlight, just by simply left-clicking and dragging, you can highlight all the keyframes that you want. You're going to go ahead and hit Control-C, and then you're going to want to move all the way to frame 45 and hit Control-V. And you can see that will continue his walking movement. So now, after that, you can copy it as far as you want to go. I'm probably just going to go one more after this, just for demonstration purposes. Then we go to 105 and put it in there. So you can see now our character will walk, but he won't actually move anywhere. So that's a problem. We want him to move. So in between right here, so on keyframe, on frame 15, you're going to want to hit Steve or whatever you've named the guy. If you can just click on the guy to name him. So let's say we want to name him Warrior. We can do that. Of course, we need to learn how to spell. There we go. And so Warrior here, we want him to actually move forward. So in between this frame, so we're going to set a keyframe right there. And this frame, we're going to set one right there. We want him to move from, I believe it's the Z chords or X chords. I'm not sure which one. It is the Z chords. Okay. So we want him to move from frame 15 to frame 30. We want him to actually move forward. So you're going to see his Z is 125 point bunch of numbers. So you're going to want to change this to 135. So now you can see that he will actually walk forward. Although I've done this in a little bit of a reverse order because I started out here. And so that makes him walk backward. So of course we don't want him to be walking backward. So it looks like we need to bump it down rather than going up. So right here, instead of having it at 135, we're going to want to put it to 115. So now you can see he goes from 125 to 115 in those 2 frames. So now if we want him to continue walking forward, then right here we want to set down a marker, and we'll have him, it'll go all the way down to 05. So you can see when he takes a step, then he pulls himself forward. The next step will pull himself forward, just so long as we put down a marker here. So now this one is going to go to 95, if I learned math correctly. That would be 95 then. So you can see he's continuing to make good steps, and alright, now 95, we can go to 85, then at frame 90, we go to 75, then we go to 65, then we go to 55, and that's all the farther I went. So now, if we play this animation, you can see him actually take real steps, and he doesn't glide along while taking those steps. Now, if you want him to end up pausing at the end of his walk, however long you want to do this, unfortunately you can't copy these keyframes, because if you do, then the position is set to Z55. So now if I were to copy this keyframe over here, he would just maintain the same position because it would tell him that he's at 55. So we want him to stop. So we'll decide how many frames we want it to take him to stop, but for now we're just going to say about right here. So we're going to want to set down markers for the right arm, and then you're just simply going to want to put all of this to 0. Then you're going to want to go to the left arm, and you're going to set that to 0. Click on the right leg, set that to 0. And then click on the left leg as well, and set that to 0. So we can see how quickly he stops here. He stops too quick for the motions that he's actually doing, so we're going to want to slide this back to maybe a 35, so it takes him 15 frames to stop. So now you can see it looks a little cheesy when he stops, because it seems like he just glides a little bit there as well. So we're actually going to want to move him forward still. So you're gonna have to mess around with this yourself, depending on how long you make it for him to stop. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set a marker here, and we're actually going to have him continue forward a little bit. So if we go to warrior, so let's see, where did I set my marker down? We want him to stop in between what frame and what frame? So we want him to stop in between frame 120 and frame 135. So we're actually going to have him move forward. You probably want to do it on here. Let's see, if we have him move forward 0.5, does that make it look good for when he stops? It looks pretty good. So now when you press it, you can see when he stops, he sort of takes like a slow little step. I'm going to actually move this over to 130, so it only takes 10 frames for him to stop. You can see how that looks, and that looked very smooth. So when he walks, that was a beautiful stop. So that's basically the way that I have this guy walk. Now there is one other thing left with this, is what happens when your character comes to a obstacle. For instance, if you want him to walk up a block or something. So let's say there was a block. Why don't we just create one quick actually? Let's go to, where's the actual block? There it is. So we'll create a grass block, go to the grass block, and we'll move it upward. Now this isn't going to have to be like perfect or anything. Of course, if you guys are doing animation, you'd want to make sure this was centered on the rest of the blocks. But I'm just going to move this wherever it's needed for purposes of the video. So we have a block here, and now we want our guy to walk onto the actual block itself. So you can see right here is about where we want him to get up onto the block. We might actually want to start a little bit sooner, like about here. So we're going to want to click on the warrior keyframe, and then you'll see here is where he would be up on top. So it's actually going to be perfect frames. Sometimes it's not, so sometimes you'll have to set like your own keyframe right here, and then you'll see why. But then right here, we're going to want to move him up onto the actual block. So You can see when he gets there, he steps up onto the block. Now you'll see how he started going down immediately after. That's because all of these, or this keyframe was set before he went up onto an obstacle. So when you're doing this, you're going to want to make sure there's no obstacles that he's going to have to walk up on. Otherwise, what you're going to have to do for every single keyframe is you're going to have to look on this keyframe when he's standing right on the top. You're going to see his Y chords right here. They're 319.22. So then here, you're going to have to click on this one and change this to 319.22. And you would have to do that for every single keyframe that you set along here. Fortunately, I only had one keyframe set, so I don't have to worry about that. So he comes forward, and you can see it's a little bit of an odd way for him to get up on the block. And he does it a little bit slow, unless you like it slow like that. But in the actual game itself, he takes a longer time. Let's see. So we're going to want to look. His Y chords are 304. So we're going to go to here, and we're going to set a marker down there. We're going to set this to 304. So we want him to move a little bit quicker there, as you can see. So he'll walk, and he'll jump up onto the block like that. Now you can see that a little bit of his leg goes into the block. If that really bugs you a lot, or if you're doing like a perfect animation or something, then you're going to want to make him either go up sooner or make him go up faster. So if I want him to go up sooner, so what you want to do then, if you don't want his legs to go through the block like that, is you're going to want to just move it along until his leg gets to the point where it's about to go through the block. So we'll say about right here. And then you can set a position for the warrior, and then you can move him upwards a little bit, and then see if that makes it so his foot still goes through. So right here, you might want to bring him up a little bit further, and you might get a little bit of clip in the block, and that's sometimes it's sort of unavoidable. But if you guys mess around with it, I'm sure you could get it so he does not clip into the block at all. But that is the basics as to how I make my characters walk. And yeah, so I do hope that you guys enjoyed this little bit of a tutorial, a little different sort of feel as to what I normally do. But I thought, hey, I'm starting animations, so why not show you guys what I'm doing? And so here we probably spent 15-ish minutes just making 5 seconds worth of this guy moving. It is very, very time consuming. My first animation that's coming out, I was learning stuff as I was making the animation. So the actual animation itself is not the best. However, my animation that I'm working on over the top of that, what I'm working on too currently, is very, very smooth. And actually this guy's in it here. And it's looking pretty good. There's a few things I need to tweak on it. But I do hope that you guys did enjoy this tutorial, as I said. And if you did, be sure to like, comment, and if you really want to, you could subscribe, and you could even let me know if you want to see more tutorials as to how to make these guys do a lot of different things, as to like a fighting scene or make actual faces. You can see that I have this guy already to make a face. You can see he has no eyes in there. And yeah, just anything that you guys would like, you could just let me know, and I could go ahead and give you guys a tutorial as to how to do it. Now, I'm not perfect at it, and I'm sure some of the things that I do, there's a little bit simpler ways, but I will try my best to get the best quality way of doing it out there. So I will see you all in the next video. Adios.